Turning attention now to the other big story on the show. Well, it's the meeting the world cannot stop talking about. The most anticipated meetup of the year. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin face to face this Friday in Alaska. On the table, well, a possible end to Europe's longest and most brutal war since Second World War, with Ukrainian territory on the line. The stakes couldn't have been higher, and yet Ukraine is not on the table, doesn't have a seat at the table. Well, it hasn't earned it, if you think from Trump's point of view. European leaders are also on the sidelines. Again, they're a footnote, hardly a play as far as Trump's playbook is concerned. Kiev is still waiting for confirmation. While headlines focus on who's in and who's left out, one nation is quietly shaping the conversation. One needs to keep in mind that Prime Minister Modi did hold talks both with Vladimir Putin as well as Zelensky, just going into the Alaska summit with the President Trump. Now, in fact, India is uniquely positioned to probably be the only country in the world that has lines of communication that are robust and up between both Russia and Ukraine. Even last year, when Prime Minister Modi had visited Russia, he followed that up with a visit to Ukraine. And now, while he spoke with Vladimir Putin on Friday, and there's also a confirmation that the Russian president will be in India soon, he also spoke with the Ukrainian president in terms of what he feels and what India feels should be the path to be able to solve this, which is peacefully find a resolution. And he's also said, Prime Minister Modi has said that this is not an era of war. Now, while the West grapples with open diplomacy, India is playing the long game. Behind closed doors, you see New Delhi is trusted by both Moscow and Kiev, and now acknowledged by Trump as a key player on Russian oil and economic influence. Meanwhile, for more on this, let's quickly now rope in. We have a guest joining us on the broadcast to talk more on this. Maximilian Hess joins us to talk more on what this means in terms of the summit, the possible outcomes, and should we actually be tempering our expectations? And we'll get the big questions as well on our screens as well. But Mr. Hess, in your assessment, how optimistic are you really in terms of this summit leading to some sort of breakthrough? I won't even use the word ceasefire, possible breakthrough in this long and grinding war.
Well, thank you for having me. I am not very hopeful that there will be a breakthrough. I think both the wider West's negotiating position and Trump's individual interests and what he hopes to extract from Russia are too far apart for Putin to agree anything meaningful towards. Yes, there is a personal attraction, a very strong one in that, from Donald Trump towards Vladimir Putin, but while his interests are very different from the wider West's, even his interests and what he wants Putin to concede on will be too hard to make a deal on, let alone what Ukraine wants a deal to be made on.
And in your sense, do you think there could be any potential concessions that the Russian president may look at? He's coming into the summit with the significant military wins, a momentum in the last couple of weeks. Do you see any concessions being made?
No is the short answer. I mean,
deal-breaker.
diplomacy is always good and we should always welcome it, but Russia is not negotiating in good faith, and Putin sees that he has advantages on the battlefield right now. He believes that his economy can get through this storm relatively easily. I think he's wrong there, but he believes that. And so Vladimir Putin won't make concessions. And even if there is a deal, if Trump agrees to the kind of deal that Putin wants, then the world will become a far more dangerous place for the foreseeable future.
And I think that itself is a deal breaker, Mr. Hess, because if there is no concession, then there's really no deal on the table. Even if Zelensky is not on the table, at the end of the day, there will be any possible breakthrough only and only if there are any concessions that can be made. You know, which also brings me to ask you the other aspect of this summit, which actually impacts New Delhi, it impacts India directly. The Russian oil sanctions that Donald Trump has come up with, everybody knows it's because the American president has been frustrated with the fact that there's not been a ceasefire. He's not been able to close a war, which he thought he would do in 24 hours. So we do get impacted directly with the outcome of the Alaska summit. One is that there could be an end to the war. Second is there could be a different perspective to the sanctions that Donald Trump has incorrectly put as far as India importing Russian oil is concerned. Your thoughts there?
It is, of course, a major impediment. Now, Vladimir Putin could try to agree a deal with Donald Trump on matters that he cares about, such as the future of the Arctic. That's why the summit is being held in Alaska, or the future of the natural gas industry. I don't think he has really much to offer Trump there, but he could try to make negotiations. But then to actually make some kind of agreement that Ukraine and Europe will accept is going to be far harder. Now, Ukraine and Europe will have real difficulties funding the war without U.S. supplies of military goods, but there is still quite a lot more they can do. The Europeans, in particular, have just been unwilling to do so on their own. But as we often see, the Europeans will make every mistake before they finally come around to the choice that they should have made in the beginning.
Let's leave it there. Mr. Maximilian Hess, who's the author of Economic War, Ukraine and the Global Conflict Between Russia and the West. Thank you so much for speaking to me on India Global View. As well as we wrap things up, let me quickly now tell you, why is Alaska such an important place, and why exactly is Alaska really the host of this summit? First and foremost, this is 55 miles from Russian territory, the closest actually in terms of distance between America and Russia. And in fact, during the Ice Age, during the earlier time, Beringer Land Bridge actually connected US and Russia via Alaska. It also underscores, viewers, the geographic proximity between Russia and the US, and many would say potentially offers a semi-neutral midpoint for Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. And this is also the region, the Arctic Circle really is the new theater where both Russia and US pretty much face each other off, and which is why this region could be extremely important. And a bit of historical fact as we wrap things up, this was in fact sold by Alexander II, the Tsar Alexander II in 18th century to the US for $7.2 million in gold.